Okay, you're good.
Okay, we'll now resume today's regular council meeting. There was a report that came back from closed session, and Councillor Belch has a motion that has out as a result of the closed session discussion. Councillor Belch.
Yeah, through you, Chair, that council appoint Barbara Allen to the Cavan Monaghan Library Board for the balance of the 2018 through 2022 term of council, and that staff be directed to bring back a bylaw and revised terms of reference appointing Dave Grant as a regular member and Jerry Byrne as an alternate member for the Committee of Adjustment for the balance of the 2018 through 2022 term of council.
Very good. And there's an associated bylaw for that as well. Okay, we got a mover, seconder, Deputy Mayor Graham. Madam Clerk, call for the recorded vote, please.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion has passed. There are no delegations. We move into our minutes. Minutes of the regular council meeting held June 1st, 2020. Motion to adopt those minutes. Need a mover. Councillor Moore and Deputy Mayor Graham. Madam Clerk, call for recorded vote.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion has passed. There are no minutes from the committees and boards. So we will move now into our reports. Item 10.1, report planning 2020-12, provincially significant wetlands mapping. Ms. Ellis.
Mayor McFadden, members of council, planning report 2020-12 is before you today with the recommendation that council express support for a more open and transparent public review of provincially significant wetland evaluations by providing a copy of the resolution to the Premier of Ontario, the Minister of Natural Resources and Forestry, Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, and the Royal Ontario Municipal Association.
Very good. Any questions from members of council? Seeing none, motion then to receive the report and accept the recommendation. Deputy Mayor Graham, seconded by Councillor Huntley. Ms. Ellis, thank you very much for a great report with regards to supporting that. Thank you. Madam Clerk, we'll move into the recorded vote.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion has passed. Next report, item 10.2, report planning 2020-13, Nina Court Extension, Veltri pre-servicing agreement. Ms. Ellis?
Mayor McFadden, members of council, planning report 2020-13 is before you today with the recommendation that bylaw number 2020-32 be approved to authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the pre-servicing agreement between Veltri and Son Limited and the Township of Cavan Monaghan.
Very good. Any questions from members of council?
So
Councillor Huntley.
just through you, Chair, just a quick question. If this is the pre-servicing agreement, when would we expect a servicing agreement to come? Like, is it inevitable or I get lost. I apologize. I get lost in these planning processes and which one of these is coming when. And
okay.
Ms. Ellis?
Through you, Mayor McFadden, to members of council. So this agreement will allow some work to be done on the ground in terms of servicing the subdivision, but you will see a subdivision agreement come before you for approval. And the subdivision agreement will outline how all of the conditions of draft plan approval are being satisfied. So you will see that, I would think, relatively soon. We do have a draft and it is being worked on. So there is another agreement to follow that will deal with other things that are not necessarily related to servicing.
okay.
Good. Follow up, Councillor Huntley?
Yeah, a follow-up question, you don't mind. So, I mean, just trying to wrap my own head around this. So when we get the actual subdivision agreement coming before us, really it's like, you know, all the conditions leading up to that, so that agreement have been met and now it's okay to assign the agreement. Is that how the flow works, Ms. Ellis?
Through you, Mayor McFadden, to members of council, the subdivision agreement will outline the developer's obligations in terms of fulfilling all of the conditions of draft plan approval. So in addition to things like zoning that are important to the township. There will also be references to the stormwater management and the landscaping plans that go to those. There will be clauses pertaining to the conservation authority's conditions, that type of thing. So it's a more robust agreement than what you see in terms of the pre-servicing agreement.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Further questions from members of council? I have a couple as well, and along the same vein as Councillor Huntley, sometimes it gets confusing as to which questions are appropriate at which stage of this process. There is a lot of stages for a subdivision. One has to do specifically, this has been raised before with regards to the privacy fence between the existing landowner and the beginning of the next subdivision. I know it's been agreed that there will be a fence, but obviously with all of the construction going on next door, I was hoping that it would be sooner rather than later when that fence be erected. So I don't know whether that's Ms. Ellis or Mr. Hancock.
Through you, Mayor McFadden, to members of council as well. The fence, the privacy fence does show up on the landscape plans that are referenced in the agreement. There's not necessarily a timing clause in the agreement, but I know that we did speak about it at the time we were dealing with the draft plan approval consideration. And there was some discussion, I believe, for the privacy fence on the north side of the Nina Court extension, that it would go prior to construction. The privacy fence on the south side involves the removal of an existing fence and replacement, and that would come after lot grading. So it's something that I will definitely follow up with the developer to ensure that that work will proceed on the north side fence prior to any on-site activities.
Very good. I know there was some discussion with regards to the street signs. Now that is covered off in our bylaw, so we need not get into that. So any of the street signs will match what our current subdivisions have. That's my understanding. There was some thought with regards to the street lights, but recognizing, I agree, it's more appropriate that they match the current subdivision, as in what's currently there on site, than to switch them to the new subdivision style, because it's not for sure that that would ever be connected back around. So I am okay with that, but we probably should have something moving forward in subdivision applications, that it's something to be considered when a new subdivision is being proposed, so that council doesn't have to remember to raise it as a topic. Sidewalks and trees, again, they're not identified necessarily in this agreement, but I'm just not sure at what point they're approved or pulled into it. The importance of trees and the importance of sidewalks, I know they're on plans. Is it already written in? I guess I'll send that one to Mr. Hancock.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Specifically, the sidewalks will, first of all, the engineering drawings will show up as part of the subdivision agreement, and they are an item that has to be agreed to in the subdivision agreement. So it will be, that and the landscaping are both covered off in the main agreement. So the pre-servicing won't necessarily speak to that, because it really allows the subdivider to build the roads with underground services and to base asphalt. The subdivision agreement is our final document that covers off both items, and we have full securities for all of that at the time.
Okay, very good. So as far as ensuring the connectivity of the sidewalks, et cetera, to existing sidewalks, that'll all be covered off in the subdivision agreement then?
Yes.
Okay, very good.
If I could follow that up, Mayor McFadden.
Sure.
Just for your information too, that's the type of item that is reviewed before we provide comments to Peterborough County with a recommendation about whether we support draft plan approval. So we have flagged those at the review stage of township staff, and we look at that in terms of the existing servicing standards for the township and our official plan policies that talk about sidewalks and landscaping and some other things. So in the future, though, we'll try and remember to flag it for you and say, these are all the things that are normally things that you should comment on right now. So
Okay.
that you know at the front end that they are looked after and there is a connection. With this particular subdivision, in addition to the sidewalk, we've asked for a connection through the block that is going to be transferred to the township. So there'll be a connection through the back to Centennial Lane, in addition to the sidewalk on the street.
Right.
Yes, and I think we just need to ensure that that connection is made so that it doesn't start in the middle of nowhere, that it actually is connecting either to the road or to an existing sidewalk.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. A question I saw under the agreement, again, it has to do with whether it is covered in this or not, the pre-servicing agreement. There's maintenance of municipal streets. So my understanding is that, and Mr. Hancock can certainly enlighten us with regards to scoping existing infrastructure prior to the construction taking place, as well as scoping the infrastructure being the municipal pipes before and after to ensure that everything is all clean. But I believe that's already part of this process, Mr. Hancock.
Yeah, to you, Mr. Mayor, first of all, we do what's referred to as a pre-construction inspection and a cammering of existing pipes in the ground. And then we do a pre and post on existing plus the new pipes that are put in the ground by the subdivider. So there is a check, and that's done both at the start of maintenance and at the end of maintenance to verify that we're accepting things that are clean and up to par. That's number one. And then I think I was indicating a lot of companies are using drone overflies now to take pictures of your surface works to make sure that if something's disturbed, we'll have that on file also to verify what's there before the contractor starts. In this particular case, he's putting his haul road off Centennial behind the houses, so that should reduce any damage to our existing infrastructure. So we've had him come off Centennial just in front of the plant where he will bring his, it's the materials for the underground and the materials for the roadways. So that will help. And of course, we will have the pre and post inspections.
Very good. With regards to the equipment, what I would assume that's the first thing that's going to be done is that back construction road. But is there some sort of estimate on when they'll have that available to use? Because the equipment is already starting to show up. There's one excavator on site already. Obviously, they're not using the road yet because it doesn't exist. So is there a timeline on the road?
The haul road is the first item to go in, and that was to go in before they start servicing. Right now, they're bringing equipment in, and I'm assuming we haven't got a date from them when they want to start, but I'm assuming that would be to build the haul road because that's where all your pipes and other materials are to come in along that haul road. So the initial equipment drop off is for the equipment to build the haul road. That's the way I'm taking it right now.
Excellent. And then with regards to, because there's nothing that says the homes are going to, there's no particular phasing in. In other words, the first home of the subdivision isn't necessarily going to be the first one. It'll depend on the order in which they sell. So I guess the worst case scenario would be the furthest one away from the existing stub is the first one that's sold. So issues of snow removal, garbage recycling, collection, is that all covered off in the subdivision agreement, or is it at this stage?
There is a clause in the subdivision agreement saying that the subdivider will maintain the roads until such time that we have either enough occupancies or we decide that we can take them over. Because the roads have to be clear, first of all, for snow removal and for garbage collection. Plus, they have to be in a finished state. And a lot of these cases with the builder still there doesn't make it convenient. So if he happens to occupy one house at the end of the street, it's up to the subdivider to maintain that access to that location until we decide that we're taking it over. That clause is in the subdivision agreement.
Okay, very good. Any other questions from members of council? Seeing none then, motion, I'd entertain a motion then to receive the report and accept the recommendation. Got Councillor Moore and Councillor Huntley. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
yes,
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion has passed. Next item is report planning 2020-14 policy for municipal lands tree replacement. Ms. Ellis?
Mayor McFadden, members of council, planning report 2020-14 is before you today with the following recommendations. Firstly, that the tree replacement policy adopted by motion CW/15/09/08/08 be repealed. Secondly, that the trees on township road allowances policy adopted by motion CW/21/11/05/13 be repealed. Thirdly, that council adopt the policy for municipal lands tree replacement attached here to as attachment number 2. Fourthly, that township staff and council continue to educate the public and landowners on the township's policy for municipal lands tree replacement, the tree canopy and natural vegetation policy, and the woodlot tree preservation replacement and enhancement policies in the township of Cavan Monaghan official plan. And finally, that council provide direction to staff with respect to the preferred long-term approach to tree preservation and enhancement on private lands within the Township of Cavan Monaghan.
Very good. Any questions from members of council? Councillor Huntley.
Through you, Chair, I just wanted to say thank you to Ms. Ellis for coming back with this, and taking into account our recommendations the last time around. No, a lot of work's gone into it, and I think it's going to be muchly appreciated.
Very good. Deputy Mayor Graham, I think I saw your hand.
No, but I will speak to it, Mayor. Thank you. With regards to the direction that staff is looking for in the 5th recommendation in the report, I know this was a much discussed topic at the last iteration of a similar report. With regards to the tree preservation enhancement on private lands, I know that the issue of certain and not necessarily legal clear cutting has been something that's been brought to my attention throughout as occurring in counties nearby. And that was sort of one of the catalysts for the concerns with regards to the restriction on that. It hasn't been something I believe we've had too many issues with in the recent history anyways, but it is something that I think it could be theoretically devastating to the tree canopy that we're trying to maintain with the reports and commitments that we're making for public lands. So without being intrusive and overstepping and overly litigious, that is the one element that I would like to see some sort of consideration on with regards to the private land component of whatever policy we move forward with in that regard.
Looking to staff, sorry.
Okay, sorry, if I may respond through you, Mayor McFadden, to members of council. So the issue of the regulating tree removal on private property is the matter of jurisdiction. So it is an upper tier responsibility. So this is what the staff are looking for direction from council. Is it your desire that we do wish to regulate that? And how do you want to do that? Do we want to request that Peterborough County delegate that authority to the township so that we have the authority to do it? Because once you get over lands that are about 1 hectare in size, we don't have the legislative authority just to develop and implement a bylaw. So your other option is to ask that the County of Peterborough do that work and implement a bylaw. That's what I'm looking for direction on from.
So sorry, through you, Mayor.
Deputy Mayor.
I was just going to suggest then maybe if council is so interested, maybe what we could be doing is drafting a letter requesting Peterborough County to provide that service, or if there's an unwillingness to delegate us the authority to do so within our own powers. I mean, it's just, that's what we end up doing in the end. It remains to be seen, but if we can't have any sort of control over it now, well, I'm not sure if there's an appetite from other councillors to have it. I understand that there's, pros and cons to it, but I think we just need to sort of move forward with ensuring that we're protected, because I mean, development is coming, and I think it's going to be more and more, or potentially more of an issue, that if we are going to sort of take a stand firmly on protecting the canopy, which I think we're trying to do, and I think we've done well with, that sort of clear cutting is one thing that I would like to come up with some sort of solution to, as flexible as possible and as reasonable as possible to, prohibit.
Councillor Belt.
Through you, Mayor, I agree with the Deputy Mayor in that I don't think that there's, for all the years that have been on council, we still don't have something that's going to protect the canopy along Sherbrooke that's owned by Brookfield. And depending upon how long it takes for Brookfield to be able to start developing those lands sort of between Lansdowne and Sherbrooke, but there's at least, is there not, Karen Ellis, about 14 acres of land along there that definitely is vulnerable to basically clear cutting?
To you, Mayor McFadden, to members of council, I'm not sure, Councillor Belch, of the exact acreage, but yes, there's a significant woodlot just south of Sherbrooke Street that is very close to existing development and the boundary with the city of Peterborough in terms of how that quadrant might get developed over time.
Very good. Question with regards to our inability to regulate anything over 1 hectare. Is that relative to the parcel of land in question, or is that relative to the acreage of the, in this case, trees being clear cut?
To you, Mayor McFadden, and members of council. So it's my understanding under the Municipal Act, we can regulate parcels of land up to 1 hectare in size. Anything over that, even if we passed a bylaw under that, any parcel that was over that, they could essentially do some tree removal at their own, I hate to say whim, because usually it's planned, but normally when we have situations of significant tree canopy and forest cover that people are concerned about, it does occur on properties that are larger than 1 hectare in size.
Okay, so in light of that, so I think it's a fair observation and suggestion from our deputy mayor that we first asked the county if they would bring forward I'm assuming a tree cutting bylaw to regulate tree cutting on acreage over 1 hectare. Alternatively, if a tree cutting bylaw is not forthcoming, we request that the county delegate that authority back to the lower tier municipalities. Is that fair enough, Deputy Mayor?
Yep, correct.
Okay, so unless anybody's got any other questions, we've got the recommendations before us. And I got Councillor Huntley waving. Councillor Huntley.
Through you, Chair. I guess my only hesitation in that, and I agree wholeheartedly with the intent, is if the county doesn't see this as an issue right now because it's just isn't facing it, are they going to act on it? And therefore, should we be putting kind of a time constraint on whether they want to do this or not before it comes back? Because it could just go off into oblivion, right?
True. Good point.
And I don't have visibility from a county level like you guys may of, is this something they're seeing? I think Deputy Mayor Graham had mentioned that, that there was, other places where they're experiencing this. So I just don't know. I don't have line of sight into knowing.
That's a fair observation. Absolutely. Deputy Mayor, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think as long as the timeline, I'm all for a timeline and making those requests. But as we've seen very recently, and we'll get to later in the report, sometimes timelines, don't mean so much. But and also to Councillor Belch's comment, I mean, this has been talked about, I think, for a long time, and just nothing's come of it. And I think, the sooner the better, but also within reason, given all of the things that, municipal governments are working through now. But, ideally, by the end of the year, you would think the county could come up with something with regards to, putting something together, or at least responding to us with regards to their openness to delegate that authority. I don't know offhand if it's been delegated to other municipalities in the county. That's something that we could, definitely ask around about. But there's a lot of precedent-setting things that Cavan Monaghan seems to be involved in when it comes to the county. So you never know. But I think the intention's right, and I don't think what we're asking for is too turbulent. So I think we'll just wait and see with regards to this. But I'm open to suggesting that by 2021 or by the end of 2020, I think that's a reasonable request, and would give us the opportunity to potentially have it in place for the next building season, if you want to call it that. But I don't think the policy is necessarily anti-construction or anti-development. It's just more allowing us some checks and balances for those that are to sustain the canopy that is giving us breath.
Yeah, that's fair. I think if you just add in that one addition that they're committed to bringing back a tree cutting bylaw by the end of the year, or alternatively provide the opportunity for that legislative responsibility to be delegated to Cavan Monaghan to come up with their own.
All right.
I think that's fair, and it accomplishes it. If the county came back and said, you know what, it's going to take us till March of 2021, then so be it. That's fine, as long as they're committed to bringing something forward.
It just adds a timeline to the discussion, right?
I think that's really good. So with that, who would like to Matthew, do you want to make that motion? Then we got recommendations 1 through 4, and then replace number 5 with your wording for that.
Yeah. So I would move to receive support the recommendations in 1 through 4, and then in recommendation 5, that staff draft a letter to the county requesting that they establish a bylaw, a tree cutting bylaw to regulate areas of over 1 hectare, as it is an upper tier responsibility. And then if they do not wish to do so, that they reply or consider delegating the authority to do so to the lower tier municipality as Cavan Monaghan, and that they respond to this inquiry no later than the end of 2020 year.
Very good. Perfect. Seconder? Councillor Belch. Fantastic. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, recorded vote. Oh, sorry,
Well,
Councillor Hunt.
More
Counselor.
discussion.
More discussion. Sorry. So in terms of the timeline of responding to this by the end of the year, I mean, if the tree cutting, or if a tree cutting bylaw isn't even on their agenda, they could be responding like immediately, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess it's the end of the year. I'm just thinking, if it's just not even on their radar, then, why would they wait? They could wait till December to tell us, it's not on our radar.
Yeah, and in fairness, sorry, through you, Mayor, it could very well be. We just don't know. I mean, we don't have that foresight. I'm not sure. I know it's been discussed. I've had the topic discussion with other county councilors. Especially given all the things that are going on, priorities have shifted on a lot of different fronts. So, I know there was an appetite building sort of for it, but I don't know if anyone's taken the actual formal step of pushing a little or requesting such a thing. But the whole intention of the motion is just to let us know where that is on the agenda, if it is, and what issues that they might have with giving us the power if they don't want to create a bylaw.
My suggestion would be, rather than directing it to the county staff, direct it to county council, because then we can refer to staff and we can provide that with it. If the staff know at that time that they're not going to be dealing with it before the end of the year, then we can seek a resolution from county council at that point to delegate the authority to the lower tier. I think we accomplish both.
That's what I was looking for.
That adjustment. Yeah, for sure. I support that adjustment to the motion.
Perfect. Excellent. So we got a mover in Councillor Graham. Is Councillor Belch okay with that modification?
Yep.
Excellent. Okay, Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
yes,
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion has passed. Very good. Thank you, Ms. Ellis. That was a lot of work. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Our next item is report 10.4, report finance 2020-13, property tax arrears update. Ms. Pope.
Good afternoon, Council. I have before you the annual property tax arrears report. I just wanted to highlight for you that due to the COVID pandemic, we are temporarily holding our collection accounts until after the final tax due date, and then we'll recommence in November. The reason for this is we want to make sure that we're not including people in there that are not paying at this time because they've been given provision to have the penalty and interest waived. In comparison to last year at this time, we were around 300,000. We're up around 480,000 at this point for this year. So that is an increase over last year. However, the water and wastewater has actually come down about 30%. So this is an update to you. There won't be any transfer to collections, just to support what we're currently going through in COVID, but we will resume in November as we move forward.
Excellent. Very good. Any questions from members of council?
no,
Seeing none. Okay, motion then to receive that report. Deputy Mayor Graham, Councillor Moore. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Moore,
yes,
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion is passed. Next report, Finance 2020-14, COVID-19 waiving of penalty interest charges and loss of revenues, April 1st to June 30th, 2020. Ms. Pope?
Thank you. Council, I have before you this afternoon just the updated report. This is our second report on COVID so far and the loss of revenues that we're estimating. As the penalty and interest in water and wastewater charges are charged at the beginning of the month, this does include up to the 1st of June for that. We did receive from Parks and Facilities an estimate for the month of June. So the estimate is also included in their number as well. However, the field, you'll notice in the report, we talk about the field rentals, not expected to be fulfilled. There are no dollars attached to that as of yet. That's being calculated and determined. And by the next time I have another report, we will have some more information for you on that. So at this time, we're looking at about total to date, about 129,000 between the first 3 months. 62,500 is penalty and interest. Almost 12,000 is water and wastewater penalty fees, and approximately 54,000 is parks and facilities rental revenue losses.
Very good. Questions from members of council? Councillor Huntley?
Through you, Chair, to Ms. Pope. I kind of struggle with the wording of lost revenues when we're talking about the delta between what we would normally see in the interest and penalties. Like if we say, you know, normally it would be 14,000 for property taxes and 2,000 for wastewater, but right now we're seeing it at 62,000. I mean, the delta between those two isn't really a lost revenue because it was never revenue in the first place.
Through you, Mayor, to Councillor Huntley, the comparison actually, if you look at the quoted amounts that you're referencing for 14,000 and 2,000, that's an annual average looking at over the last 3 years, just to give you an idea or perspective of where we're at. True lost revenue is not receiving the 1.25% that is charged at the beginning of the month. So we can't recoup the 62,000 on the penalty and interest. That is truly lost revenue that we will not be able to recoup. The 11,900 on the water and wastewater, that's the same thing, truly lost revenue. We cannot, even if we reopen tomorrow, we would not be able to recoup that information or that revenue. Parks and facilities, it is an estimate because it was based on bookings. So I could see there that potentially, but again, it's if we were open and we were running, we would have received those because they were part of the commitment for the contracts that were in place. So those three numbers there are provided as true lost revenues at this point, because if we were to open back up, there's no way to go backwards over those months and recoup those costs. And they are fees that we do regularly charge on a monthly basis, but the 62,562 for the penalty and interest, that's over a 3-month period of time. So if we're comparing that to the, that would be $4,000 or $42,000 in total over 3 months if we looked at an average over the last 3 years. So we're about $20,000 higher. Just trying to give you perspective, but
Right.
Rather than comparing just to last year or the year before, we tried to average out that so you could have that information.
So sorry then, Chair, through you. Are you saying that there's about a $20,000 difference that we can attribute directly to COVID versus a normal operating year?
I can say that we are $20,000 above on the penalty and interest amounts in loss, but to say that it's COVID, I don't have, that is what is happening in our communities right now and in the economy, but I don't have direct information to say that that's the only leading cause, but it is the largest one that we do know about. And because when you're looking at making payments of bills, I mean, we notice that water and wastewater has gone down. There's a certain priority that people place on their budgeting, and when they can and cannot afford things, I don't know if there's a trend there that the payments of water and sewer are taking priority over property taxes because they do have time. There's no penalty and interest, and the final due date is not till October 31st. But again, these are all assumptions on my part, not to be taken as fact. We're just trying to estimate as to what potentially could be happening out there. It's a lot of guesswork at this point. We're just trying to give you the best feedback about potential losses that we know we cannot recoup. These are losses that are the amount for penalty interest, water and wastewater penalty interest, they're included in our budget. There's an expectation that we'll receive those funds. So these are true losses. If we, by the end of the year, don't have these funds, then that will contribute to not bringing in the revenue that we anticipated to bring in when the budget was passed. Parks and Rec it's still required absolutely for the operation of the facilities. But again, there's estimates used in the budget to determine what the revenues will be.
Very good. Deputy Mayor Graham.
Just a question. I believe we discussed this earlier, but I wasn't sure if anything had changed on it. With regards to the amount outstanding in property taxes, do you have a sense or an estimate as to how many properties comprise that number?
I don't have that offhand. I can pull a couple additional reports to get that information, so that's not a problem. I could definitely do it for you. I don't have it offhand, and I would like to, if I provide you that information,
Yeah.
also pull last year so that I can give you that comparator for number of properties, because you're right, dollar value. The one thing about when you're looking at, you know, if someone's going into arrears and then there's bailiff action or collection action, that usually doesn't pursue until after we've exhausted our internal process first with reminders.
Mhm.
But again, we're not sending those types of reminders out right now because we're permitting the non-payment. We're not expecting payment from people who cannot make payment. We are waiving penalty and interest fees at this time. So those who are truly struggling are allowed to have that provision. And because we have no way of knowing who is and who is not struggling, that's being provided to everyone at this time.
Okay, very good. I've lost everybody off the bottom of my screen, so I can't see if there's any questions. Hold on.
Left the building.
Okay, everybody's back. You're all back. Okay, very good. Sorry. Any further questions on that? I had a couple, maybe for the reports moving forward. When we talk about lost revenue, one thing that we have not considered is losses of revenue as a result of the slots being closed, because I know we've included that within our budget as well. And on the expense side, with our facilities closed, are we in fact saving any monies as a result of staff that have not been brought in, or staff that are not working? There might be some savings there. So just a couple of suggestions, Ms. Pope.
Sure, absolutely. We'll make sure that they're included next time. When COVID did occur at first, and the CIO can speak to it more so, but the part-timers were laid off, the full-timers were kept on in the capacity where they could work. So we've had some reduction in staffing costs from a part-time perspective. I think on the full-time perspective, not quite so much, but we can definitely include the OLG and the staffing information for you on this next report. And we can also, back to Councillor Graham's point, include number of properties if that's beneficial.
Excellent, very good. Any further questions? Councillor Huntley.
Had to get off mute there for a second. I guess the only other piece of it, I don't know whether we're internally accounting for.
Oh, you
I
are
think you're
muted.
on mute.
We can't hear you, Councillor Huntley.
No, but he lost the audio.
Get you back? No,
Nope.
no.
Anyway,
Oh, there
There
you
you
are.
go.
there we go. Okay, sorry, my phone took over the headset for a second there. What was I going to say? Oh, if we are internally accounting for any of the additional expenses that we're seeing because of COVID, like I know we're buying personal protection devices and we're buying a bunch of things and signs and things like that. Is there an account that's being charged specifically so we actually know what's going on? Like I know you guys are doing your emergency meetings, but just
Wonderful
curious
question.
whether-
Ms. Pope, what have you got set up for the township?
So about 5 years or 7, it could actually be as long as 7 years ago, working with a fire chief in our emergency plan, we put into place basically a duplicate of our GL accounts. And so when staff or when management are approving and coding the invoices, they're able to place it directly over to an emergency costing. And so that is being tracked by finance. That's on the expense side. We have had, obviously, the fire department being the one that's billing through, but there's been some other departments billing through some items through there as well. That is a growing list. So we will provide the expense portion definitely. That can be coded there. And then at the end of the year, when we're finished, we have that accounting record. If ever there were a grant or something from the government that we could then apply for to receive some of the net difference, if there's a grant or anything available to us, but then we can roll that back forward to our budget. So We definitely do account for it. Each manager has access to these codes, and they've been in place for a number of years. We haven't used them for a number of years because it's the first time we're going through a pandemic issue where they're required, but we're definitely tracking, and it is our first time through using this program, but it's working very well so far.
Excellent. Go ahead, Councillor.
Follow-up question then. So then if we're getting, hopefully we don't have to get another update on where interest and penalties and charges, like would it be beneficial to everybody to see kind of where the expenses are sitting at the same time?
Absolutely. So there's always a delay because we code them to that. We have to wait for the invoices to come in, and then we're able to process them, make the payment, and then you get to see it in the GL. So we have items in there for part of May. We're still getting the invoices through. So I would say the next report, we'd be able to have that information to you. It was quite small when we were looking at it at first, but it is a growing list, and depending on what happens here in the future and how the municipality moves forward and the costs that we're incurring, we can definitely bring that information forward to you.
Okay, that'd be good. It'd be good to see kind of a complete picture of what the cause and effect is here.
Sure. And we'll also have the updates too on the fields, because that's another thing that they were waiting for, and that information will follow as well. So I think the next report will have a lot more information as well.
All right, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Ms. Pope. Any further questions? Seeing none, motion then to receive that report, accept the recommendation. Councillor Belch and Councillor Huntley. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion has passed. Next report, Finance 2020-15, 2021 Capital and Operating Budget Timetable and 2021 Council Meeting Schedule. Ms. Pope?
So Council, I have before you our schedule for next year. This is a combined report with myself and the clerk, Alana. We're working together to make sure that our dates coincide. It's basically the same format where Council will receive the first draft in December. We'll have 2 meetings in January, one of which is public, and we are hopeful to pass our budget in February. And there's opportunity in there throughout the schedule to ask comments and to also come in and meet with myself or the CAO for any of the budgetary questions, etc. So this is we bring this forward to Council every year just to make sure that we have the right dates in place, that it doesn't conflict with other dates, and that we can move forward and staff can begin to prepare for the 2021 budget that's coming up.
Very good. Any questions from members of council?
No.
Seeing none, excellent timetable. Well done, Ms. Pope. Can I get a motion to receive the report and accept the recommendation? Councillor Moore, Deputy Mayor Graham, Madam Clerk?
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Your
Councillor
thing
Huntley,
is off.
Yeah.
There you go.
Sorry.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion has passed. Very good. Thank you, Ms. Pope. Our next report, item 10.7, report ECD 2020-03, temporary closure of King Street between Tupper Street South and Allen Lane. We have Ms. Ayatt and Mr. Hancock.
Thank you, Mayor McFadden. The report before council has the following recommendations. That council receive the report and provide direction to staff on the King Street closure. And number 2, that council directs staff to research a comprehensive COVID-19 recovery strategy and report back to council.
Very good. Questions from members of council? Deputy Mayor Graham.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. Bridget, with regards to the economic recovery strategy, one of the things that's been a component of the discussion with regards to, I know at the Peterborough Chamber on that board, has been sort of collating some of the abundance of information and presenting it in a more digestible manner that can, in that case, specifically benefit the economic recovery for the businesses throughout the township. So I was wondering if that's going to, or I'm hoping or making the light suggestion that maybe that would be a component of the consideration. And I would suggest that the chamber's done a very good job of doing that. And I think if we could do similar work with regards to grants and the things that are going to be continually rolling out, that, you know, that's going to really help our small businesses navigate the complex world that is going to be the government opportunities or the supports that the government's coming out with.
Through you, Mayor McFadden, to Deputy Mayor Graham. Absolutely, that's a great idea. We do have, we do keep our COVID-19 page on our website, which does have resources for businesses. So I do try and keep that up to date with regards to any new funding programs that would be, or relief programs that are available to businesses, but certainly having something that's a little bit more digestible, I think is a great idea.
Very good. Further questions, comments, direction? Councillor Belch.
Through you, Mayor, to Bridget. Just interested in getting your take on the receptive nature of the downtown businesses with regards to closing a portion of King Street.
Through you, Mayor McFadden, to Councillor Belch. I think they did provide a motion that they don't support it at this time. They certainly made emphasis on that at this time. I think right now they're trying to understand all the regulations. They're trying to apply for appropriate funding. You know, some of them are just doing curbside delivery right now. So if you close the road, that kind of negates that. I think too, you're also putting them in, and I think I covered this in the report, is you are, in a sense, even though we're trying to clearly communicate that this is really something to provide additional space for businesses. Right now, because we are doing a phased approach to stage 2, there might just be the opportunity, people might perceive this as an opportunity to gather. That's a lot on the individual businesses to try and police. So I think it's just a lot is being thrown at them right now. And in that sense, that's why they don't support it.
Councillor Huntley, I saw your hand as well.
You can let Deputy Mayor Graham go first.
Deputy Mayor Graham.
Thank you, Councillor Huntley, and through you, Mayor. I thought this was, you know, and I wanted to make mention of it specifically because I thought this was a fantastic report, mainly because it really demonstrates the length and depth of consultations and inquiry that were done in this consideration. And I think that was maybe a process that was lost on a lot of individuals who were making comments about the discussion. You know, I understand, and you know, I wasn't a supporter of the street closure, and it reinforces that now, knowing that the majority of businesses weren't either. And I completely understand the rationale that it might be too much. But you know, we've seen this sort of experiment go well in some places and not so well on others, and certainly, you know, street infrastructure is a factor, and also business, you know, genres are also a big factor. But I did take exception to a number of comments that thought any considerations of the idea were sort of misguided. And I just wanted to make notion of the fact that, you know, things were being very aggressively said that any consideration of the fact was, you know, almost stupid. And, you know, I think that on occasions there can be a very thin line between stupidity and creativity. And I just wanted to say that, you know, with stupidity, we get nowhere, but with creativity, we don't go anywhere. So, I mean, we need creativity in order to move forward. And you know what, some things are going to be drastic, but I think people take for granted, you know, that the businesses that we have throughout the township, not just in the village, and you know, these individuals are hardworking folks, and they're not millionaires by any stretch of the imagination. And things like this can really, really put huge stresses on them. And we as a council, I'm sure, are all committed to coming up with any solutions that we can do or come up with, however far-fetched and however, drastic to support, not just the village of Millbrook, but throughout the township. And I know there was a lot of consultation that was done by a number of councillors, myself and the mayor included, with a number of different representatives in the village. So I was happy to see that the report captured the lengths to which staff went to investigate and review and consult, because it certainly seemed for some individuals to think that that was not how we do business as a council, and that is completely an inaccurate characterization. So thank you for the report, Bridget. Thank you for all the work. I know it's got to be stressful, because I know economic development and economic recovery are really important things to a lot of folks in our township right now. And you're doing a great job, and thanks. And you have our full support.
Well done. Well said, Deputy Mayor Graham. Councillor Huntley.
Yeah, through you, Chair. I'm not sure how to follow up that. That was we're very well said, Deputy Mayor Graham. The only thing I would say is that, yeah, it's unfortunate that this creative idea didn't go through, but it's justifiable why it didn't. And the particular mix of businesses we had in the downtown doesn't necessarily benefit everybody. So I think recommending how we handle this going forward, I would say let's the businesses that are looking for help or looking for ideas to come forward and suggest them. And I think we should be open to taking whatever they have, and if that means, giving up a parking space to extend a patio or something to that effect, that really is, contained to their storefront, let's take that into consideration with all seriousness. We obviously don't have one solution to fix everybody. So we're going to have to go down to, let's find the individual solutions to help where we can.
Absolutely. Well said, all members of council. It was an idea that's been brought forward, and we've had wonderful discussion. It's been captured in a very well-written report. And I think the message needs to continue to be reiterated to all of our businesses in the township. We as a council are here to support them. If you have ideas, whether, as the Deputy Mayor indicates, whether people think it's a stupid idea or a great idea, let's get that creativity flowing. You've got a very supportive council of ideas. We will have a conversation and put well thought together reports for us all to consider. And I'm very pleased with this process. And we may not be necessarily moving ahead with this idea, but at the end of the day, it did generate a lot of discussion, a lot of helpful discussion, and our businesses do know that we are there for them. And to Councillor Huntley's point, if there are businesses in the downtown that still wish to proceed with something else, whether, as he indicated, a parking spot or a patio just in front of their place of business, please continue to bring forward those ideas, and we'll see if we can come up with something that works. I think it's wonderful. Anything we can do to help our businesses recover, we're all further ahead. So very well written, very well spoken to, council, and we're looking for direction on those two topics. Who wishes to be next? Deputy Mayor Graham.
So I would make a motion then that with regards to recommendation number 1, that we are not moving forward with the King Street closure at this point. And then with regards to 2, I think we've spoken to that motion, and that I believe Bridget's outlined some great starts to the content for this report. And I look forward to receiving more of the strategy in that regard as well. So I would accept that motion as well. So.
Very good. So we got a mover on item number 2. Item number 1 is that we will not proceed with the closure. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Moore. Very good. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
No.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes. Very good. Motion has passed. Once again, Bridget, thank you very much for a well-written report. You put a lot of time and effort into that. And thank you for engaging the public, the businesses, and doing a fantastic job. So thank you.
Thank you.
Our next-
Don't forget my sidekick, Wayne. He would be mad at me if we didn't include him.
I'm sorry, Mr. Hancock, you're on the next screen and I don't have your picture. I'm sorry, but we never forget about Mr. Hancock. Thank you, Mr. Hancock.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bridge.
We got to get those to another project. Okay, our next item.
No.
Speak of the devil.
You're not on mute.
We got
Yeah.
policing. Our next item, 10.8, report corporate services 2020-11, Cabin Monaghan Policing Services. Miss Arthurs?
The recommendation is that council provide direction to staff to respond to the offer to extend the existing contract for policing services provided by the Peterborough Police Service. Initially, this report was brought to you on May the 19th. We were asked to bring it back following a proposal from the OPP, which we were hopeful we would have, but unfortunately, we have been advised that that isn't possible at this time. So we're bringing this report back. The information is there for council to make a decision on how you'd like to move forward.
Very good. Members of council? Deputy Mayor Graham?
Through you, Mayor. Yeah, it's unfortunate that we don't have, the alternative quoting from the OPP with regards to the pricing. And, in reviewing the past agreement that we had with the OPP, it appeared as though the costs was back then was in line with what we're perceived to be paying from the city now. I know that the mayor has reached out to higher levels of government to sort of see what sort of the holdup is, but obviously there's lots going on. And my recommendation at this point would be to only pursue the 1-year extension, so that hopefully we'll be able to get that costing information from the alternative provider. But it's also very clear that, policing is a very, as everyone is aware, hot subject at the moment, and there is going to absolutely be substantial changes into how it is done and how it is funded, and that's all a change for the better. I think the concern that exists, at least with myself, is ensuring that we're getting value for money. And it's clear, and certainly in my experience, that the quality of individuals that provide us our policing service are fantastic. And I hope that, the pursuit of fiscal efficiencies or responsibility isn't taken as an affront to them, because I've had nothing but great experiences and exchanges with the officers that do service the township. And I haven't heard many other or contrary experiences either. But my concern is just, there's a few components to understanding exactly what our service level is, and when our service level is compromised for other areas that come up beyond our borders. So, we definitely need to get some clarity with regards to that. And maybe this 1-year term would give us the opportunity just to see and be proven exactly how that is working and what we're getting for our money from the Peterborough Police Service. And then obviously, hopefully, if within another year, we'll be able to have a comparative from the OPP to consider as well.
Very good. Other members of council input? Councillor Huntley?
Through you, Chair, to Ms. Arthurs. The issue of the $500,000 capital that was required in the last report, can you give us a status on that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Huntley, based on the report that was provided to the City of Peterborough by their treasurer, he did indicate that they would not request any additional capital infrastructure for the Township of Cabin Monaghan during the extension. We have put in this report that we would make sure that that was a clause within the agreement, in addition to asking for monthly reports on any deployment that may happen outside of the Township of Cabin Monaghan, further to what Deputy Mayor Graham had spoke to. So at this point, if council decides on a 1-year extension, I think we would go back to determine if they were interested in a 1-year extension, and at the same time try to look at the contract that they've provided and make sure that we put in those additional clauses to ensure there's no additional capital infrastructure costs, as well as reporting on the deployment of officers outside of the township.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Other members of council? I guess that the trick is to identify, number one, we're recognizing that there is going to be an increase in cost. But secondly, and in my opinion, more importantly, we're also accepting that there is going to be a decrease in the level of service, which is our concern. And it's we need an ability to measure that decrease in the level of service to understand the true impact of it. So I think the trick is to try and get them to provide a report that clearly identifies what that decrease is. I know those reports are done in the EMS world with regards to ambulance availability, and it's very helpful in identifying if there is an issue or if there's not an issue. And I believe we need something along those lines that the Peterborough Police provide a report that outlines police availability levels during this next year so that we can quantify that issue. The other item that I would highly suggest is if we are going to agree to renew for 1 year, I believe that we should form a committee to take a look at the future of policing in Cavan Monaghan so that we have an additional information in a year's time that we can use in light of everything that's going on with policing right now to get a better handle on the contract moving forward. I think, unfortunately, I'm not pleased that we have that we're identifying right off the bat levels of services decreasing and costs increasing, and I'd really like to spend significant amount of time not only with members of council staff, but I think we also need to reach out to some of the expertise that we probably have right here in our community to assist us as we move forward. And I think by signing a 1-year contract gives us ample time to go through those details. So I would suggest that over and above the renewal of the 1-year contract. Any other input or comments, feedback? Deputy Mayor Graham.
Just a question through you, Mayor, was with regard, one of the components of the contracts in the lengthy report that sort of stuck out to me was the utilization of the OPP, and when that's required, that the cost to do so are in certain events to be covered by the city of Peterborough because of the inability to provide service of that kind or at that time. I was wondering if anyone on staff could maybe provide a little bit more clarity as to the extent of this. And sort of an extension of that question on the same sort of vein is when we have these sort of special events, like for instance, ladies' night or harvest table dinners, etc., and we're utilizing officers for security purposes then, are those dedicated city of police officers taking away from the capacity, or are those actively serving the township on a regular policing basis, or are they in addition there too? And is that not a sort of maybe an additional service that could potentially be done through the OPP and then cost recovered through the city?
Ms. Arthurs?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think there's a couple of things that we're talking about. So when we talk about costs that are captured through the city for the OPP, often those are specialty teams. So they're things that the city of Peterborough cannot provide, and the province has the OPP available to do those things. So I think that's different from potentially a paid duty officer. We've looked at ladies' night. We've tried to utilize the officers that are in town. Things like the fair, we've always had paid duty officers. So I think it just depends on the event and the availability. We've tried to use our community policing as well for ladies' night. So it really just depends on the event and whether or not we're requiring police presence, because we can't guarantee it if we're using the existing officers. The situation with the fair, there was, I believe it was last year, where we couldn't get, or 2 years ago, we couldn't get a paid duty officer from Peterborough Police, and we were actually able to get paid duty officers from the OPP, but that definitely was a cost to the fair.
Right. Okay,
Does that
very
answer?
good.
Councillor
Yep,
Moore?
I think that,
Oh, Councillor Moore, did I see your hand?
You did, through you, Chair. The only thing I was curious about was when they said that there was a call away, that they had to take our officers for something major in the city or whatever, that we would be without policing during that time. What happens if it was a major thing and we were without policing for several days? Could that happen?
Ms. Arthurs?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the communication that came to us would be for a very short period of time. They would have to deploy the officer in a major event only until they could actually backfill it and bring somebody back out to Cavan Monaghan. So I wouldn't anticipate it would be that length of time.
Okay, thank you.
I guess to Councillor Moore's point, though, whether it should be quantified, whether we should establish some sort of quantifying, because it's a valid point. If you have an emergency, I mean, we're dealing with a global pandemic now, but if there's a major emergency that covers both the city and the township, we don't want to find out mid-contract that actually we have no policing for the next week because there's an emergency in both communities and they've got all the resources. So there needs to be some sort of an upset limit, I would think. If that's their intent, then I think we should quantify it.
Mm-hmm.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if we get to the point that we're revising this contract to put some wording in to make sure that we're being reported, we could have it reviewed by legal and see if we could put something in there that's a little stronger.
Perfect, very good. Fantastic point, Councillor Moore. Any other questions, comments? With regard to a motion, I know I've suggested two additional parts, one more specifically with regards to the reporting on availability. And the second part would be outside of this, I'd suggest that we establish a committee and a task force and that we direct staff to bring back a report with terms and conditions of this new committee. That'd be my suggestion.
Yep.
Are we set on the 1 year? Is that a consensus? Councillor Huntley?
Well, I think if we don't do the 1 year, then, you know, it's an awful long time to have a committee sitting trying to figure stuff out, right?
Mhm.
So I think it's either we go for 3 years and we go in with both feet, or we go 1 year and we set up these parameters. And from all the
Sure.
discussion that we've had, I believe, you know, the 1 year with the parameters makes the most sense at this point.
Excellent. Okay, very good. Councillor Moore?
I was just going to say, through you, Chair, I agree with what Ryan's saying. I think
Very
that
good.
we have,
So I'll make that motion.
Okay, so the motion is to, is just to clarify. So the motion is to extend the contract by 1 year.
Correct.
With the inclusion of a means to measure the police availability levels.
yeah,
Correct.
Okay, and that staff be directed to draft a report with terms and conditions of this new police committee. Work? Councillor Huntley?
Yep, that sounds good.
Yep, okay. Do I have a seconder then? Councillor Moore, very good. Any further discussion then on that motion? Staff, I'm sorry, I don't see staff on my screen. So if any staff is waving away here that needs to speak now or forever hold your peace on this one. No? Okay. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
yes,
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion has passed.
Thank
Well
you.
done. Thank you, Ms. Arthurs. Next up is our report CAO 2020-04, transfer from reserves. Ms. Hurley?
Yes, good afternoon, Council. The recommendation is before you for consideration, which is that Council authorize the transfer of $18,322.20 from Parkland Reserve account for the Station Trail emergency repair works.
Thank you, Ms. Hurley. We could hardly hear you again. I'm not sure. I know you've got your headset on, but you were kind of quiet, but we heard it, but barely. Council, questions, comments? Deputy Mayor Graham?
Yeah, through you, Mayor, I just wanted to, thank staff for taking the actions to so quickly address this issue. I believe we've discussed it at council before, so I won't go over the works that were done, but they were done very quickly and they are complete, to my understanding. And I know the Milbury Valley Trails has already discussed if several members have inspected it. We're quite happy. And we're just already discussing sort of what additional sort of treatment or replanting they might be able to assist in probably next year once things are settled. But it was a substantial risk, and obviously given the circumstances that we're in, keeping such a heavily trafficked trail like Station Trail open to the public is, it's a very well used trail, and more we're seeing higher usage of trails like this one. So we wanted to keep it open as best as we could, and for the amount of work that was done to get it done so quickly was a big benefit to the community, and certainly appreciated by myself and all of the members at Milbury Valley Trails as well.
Excellent. Very well done again to Milbury Valley Trails and staff. Any other further comments? Councillor Huntley?
Through you, Chair. I know, Deputy Mayor Graham, that the Trails Committee does kind of trail walks to, kind of do maintenance on not so much maintenance, but identify, problem areas coming up like loose boards and things like that. Is there any way, or has any thought been put into, seeing whether they can determine whether any more of these sinkholes are going to show up along Station Trail? Like, I know it's kind of a crystal ball, but at the same time, like, do we anticipate other weak spots where this could happen again next year? Or?
Yeah, through you, Mayor, just in response to Councillor Huntley, these ones showed up pretty quickly, at least one of them,
Yeah.
almost, or, it seemed like it was overnight. But I don't believe, with regard to the location and the culverts on this station trail, there aren't too many additional culverts that are going to require replacement. There was only one of two where these two issues were located, both featured culverts. One was able to be addressed by some embankment work, and the other was a complete culvert replacement of, upwards of an 80-year-old, original rail bridge concrete culvert. So I don't believe we'll have too much work. We're obviously very hopeful that the embankment strategy works in the one location. This scope of work is sort of beyond the depth and the capability of Millbury Valley Trails with regards to this sort of thing. But we, as a part of that committee, there's trail reports that we do on a monthly basis every time we meet, from where we get input on everything from trees that are at risk of falling or have fallen to poison ivy and dog strangling vine reports. So we'll definitely keep our eyes open and go from there. But there are, unfortunately, with the outbreak of COVID-19, the trail work days, so to speak, were all sort of scheduled to be done right when this was locking down. So the volume of work that was planned to be done, we haven't been able to do, but some individuals have assembled in much smaller, more safe, social distance teams to do the work that's needed for this sort of thing. So, but we'll, like I said, the trails are more trafficked, and as the township grows and more residents come and are using them, I'm sure we're going to see additional wear. So we'll just try to keep on as best we can.
Okay, very good. With that, then, a motion to receive the report and accept the recommendation. Deputy Mayor Graham and Councillor Huntley. Madam Clerk?
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion is approved. Next
And
report,
through
CAO.
you-
Oh,
through you,
sorry,
Chair,
Ms. Hurley.
just-
Yes.
I would just like to add a thank you for Mr. Hancock as well.
Oh,
So,
there goes that Mr. Hancock. Thank you once again. Sorry,
Yeah.
Wayne.
Everywhere.
Forget about you.
without him jumping on this right away as well and coordinating the works, it wouldn't have taken place such a short time. So we do thank Mr. Hancock for his work on that.
Thank you, Mr. Hancock. All right, our next report is the CAO 2020 report and capital project status. Ms. Hurley?
Yes, thank you. The report is before you, so if you have any questions, we're here to answer any of the questions.
Maybe just an update from Mr. Hancock on the new loader. How'd that work out?
Very, very well, actually. I was first in it. I didn't drive it very far, but the loader did arrive last week, and actually the backhoe showed up just on Friday. So the two pieces of equipment, the boys haven't been happier, I'll put it that way. So even Evan's happy with our new acquisition. So both the loader and backhoe are with us, and both are actually well at work here. These next couple of days, we're actually right into the start of our surface treatment, so it's working out very well.
Fantastic, well timed, very good. Any questions, Councillor Moore?
No, I just wanted to say that Mr. Hancock sounds about as happy as a kid that just visited Toys R Us.
I just wanted to take the loader and rip around the yard, but nobody would let me.
Christmas in June, well done, excellent. Any questions with regards relative to this report? I apologize, I went off stream.
One.
Councillor Huntley.
Just if we can get an update on the sidewalk coming up County Road 10,
Very good. Ms. Hurley
or Mr. Hancock,
or
whoever.
Mr. Hancock?
I was just actually speaking with a contractor this morning, which is Eagleson and Curbside, and I think we've been promised probably for the last month that they were going to be on site and have this work started. I talked to the consultant Valdor Engineering this morning, and I'm going to speak directly to the developer because it's just dragging a little bit too long, and I think it's time that we get this. They keep saying they're going to be on site, they're going to do this, they're going to do that. We're not seeing anything. So At this point, we're a little frustrated, and we are hoping to lock into a schedule. And by talking with the developer directly, I think we'll get some answers.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hancock.
Very good. Further questions? It reminds me the street painting in by the sidewalk right on that stretch of County Road 10, recognizing it's a county road, but I know we did the initial street painting and it's been redone, but only about half has been done. Are they finishing the other half, or where's that?
We'll follow up. I'm not sure where they went to, but we will follow up. I'm not sure that every once in a while we blame it on COVID-19, but we seem to have some lost angels out there, so we'll track them down.
All right, very good. Motion from council to find the angels. All right, any other questions with regards to the report? If not, a motion then to receive this report. Deputy Mayor Graham, Councillor Moore, Madam Clerk, record a vote.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion has passed.
Thank you.
Item 10.11, council committee verbal reports. Councillor Belch, any reports, committees?
The Ganaraska Committee, I think, is meeting this Thursday evening.
Very good. Deputy Mayor Graham?
I think we've given a little bit of the insights with regards to Mill Valley Trails already. One other thing that's not necessarily a committee report, but I wanted to make mention of, and it kind of fits in this void, if you don't mind, Mayor, with just, with regards to the testing that went on Friday at the community center. There was over 180 people, I believe 189 tests of local residents that were done. And I myself being one of them. And it was very well organized. And, just the attitude of everyone involved. There was definitely some relief on the people that I talked to that were being tested, and an appreciation for having it done here locally. And, I just wanted to specifically thank Chief Belfour and obviously Chris Allen were there working very hard to make sure that things were running smoothly. And also just the general attitude of both the public health officials and the members of the paramedics team that were there. I mean, everyone was just working together and it was very positive. And, the test is a little bit intrusive, but I think maybe they just wanted to take the opportunity to poke a politician in the brain. So they got that in on me. So I'll take that one for us. And but yeah, it was just was happy to see it happen, and everyone that was doing it was doing great work. And so just wanted to thank you to staff, in addition to Chris and Chief Bell for pulling that together. It was a great thing to bring to the community, and a great use of the new building that unfortunately hasn't seen much of else in the recent history. So thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I think first off, kudos and thank you to you for participating and assisting in that event. So thank you, and your assistance in coordinating through the health unit. I think it would be appropriate for our council to send a thank you letter off to both the EMS and the health unit, also recognizing our local fire department and staff that also participated in it. But I think it would be very appropriate with council, if council would support me in that we as a council send a letter of support in including our community in the COVID-19 testing. That our residents certainly appreciated it. So thank you, Matthew. Councillor Moore?
Nothing to report. I have library board tomorrow.
Very good. Councillor Huntley?
Through you, Chair, to Deputy Mayor Graham, is there another event like that scheduled, or was that a one-off?
Through you, Mayor, in response to Councillor Huntley, there's been roaming throughout the county testing that's being done. I haven't heard of or been privy to any sort of future iterations of it locally, but there is ongoing testing on a drive-through sort of structure available at the Kinsman on a daily basis. I'm not sure the hours or exactly how long that's going to be sustained. I'm sure it'll come up at the next Board of Health meeting that I'll be at. But for the foreseeable future, you can be access testing there, which isn't too far. But there will, hopefully as numbers continue to hopefully decrease, maybe there'll be less of a need to have it going as widespread as it is. But fingers crossed.
Very good. Excellent. Just the one outcome of that is just, I guess we should get a motion then if we're going to send a letter of appreciation to the appropriate agencies. Deputy Mayor Graham, seconder. Councillor Huntley, Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion is passed, and also just a motion to receive those verbal reports. We got a mover, Deputy Mayor Graham, second, Councillor Moore, Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion is passed. There is no general business, no correspondence for information, no correspondence for action. There is a bylaw. Item 14.1, bylaw number 2020-32, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a pre-servicing agreement between Veltri and Son Subdivider and the Township of Cavan Municipality. Be read a first, second, third time, signed by the mayor and the clerk, and the corporate seal attached thereto. Need a mover? Councillor Moore, and a seconder is Deputy Mayor Graham. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion is passed. There is no unfinished business. Any notices of motion? Seeing none. Confirming bylaw being bylaw number 2020-33, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the meeting held June 15th, 2020, be read a first, second, third time, signed by the mayor and the clerk, and the corporate seal attached thereto. Mover. Deputy Mayor Graham, second by Councillor Moore. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion is approved. Upcoming events, we have Monday, June 22nd, Millbrook Valley Trails Advisory Committee meeting at 2 p.m. It's a virtual meeting. Just a question, Deputy Mayor, if people are interested in watching it, do they just get the link off the township website?
I would pass that question on, Mayor, to the clerk with regards to the openness of that stream.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we can provide it either the Zoom link so that they can participate that way, or we can live stream right to the YouTube. So either way,
Very
they can
good.
contact me if they'd like to participate or if they'd like to watch the meeting, and I'll give them the information.
Okay, very good. And I believe we also have a couple other meetings coming up. I believe Ganaraska has a meeting this week. Councillor Belch indicated.
Yes, it's the 18th at 7:15 in the evening.
In the evening. And is it the Zoom meeting as well?
It is.
Okay, so they just go to contact the Ganaraska Conservation.
Yes.
Okay, and Councillor Moore, you've got a library board meeting coming up, I believe, this week,
Tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock. Same policy. Do they do Zoom meetings or no?
They've been doing the Zoom meetings and they've invited anyone that wants to meet at the library, but I'm assuming that's just us as the board members.
Okay, very
You
good.
can go there.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Now we need a motion to adjourn. Councillor Huntley and Councillor Belch. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes. Motion is passed. Meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.